Hey everybody, this is Dave here at Pulp Alley, and today we are talking about how to play Pulp Alley. Basically, what we're doing is going through the Pulp Alley second edition core rules here, almost page by page, and just kind of giving a summary of the pages and the rules and sharing some ideas and some core concepts. So, if you have questions about what we're going over, be sure and leave it down in the comments below. And while you're at it, make sure you get subscribed to our little channel so you don't miss one of these videos. I think these how to play videos will be helpful for new players and for longtime players as well. So I hope all of you will get something out of this. So we're going to start here on page 34, and we're going to try to make our way to at least about 4 pages over here to page 38. We're not just going to read the pages, but we're just going to talk about them. So at the start of each turn, you're going to start off by drawing cards. On turn number 1, you're going to draw 3 cards. Thereafter, on turn number 2, 3, 4, 5, and whatever, each player is only going to get normally 1 extra card added to their hand. After all the cards are drawn, if there's an effect that occurs at the start of the turn, then it is resolved after cards are drawn. And if it's important about the sequence, and whoever is currently the director gets to decide who resolves it first. Like, let's say 2 different leaders had the gambler ability. Well, you have to decide what order they do those in, and they can't simply do them simultaneously. So that's where whoever is currently the director gets to decide which one of those players actually uses the gambler ability first and second, and so on. So that's how that's resolved. And that basically wraps up the start of the turn once that is resolved. And then you go into a real brief description here of the fortune cards. So you have a fortune card deck, and that's a big part of play Pulp Alley. You got to have that. You shuffle that up at the start of the scenario. You're also going to have a discard pile as cards are played. They'll go into the discard pile. And if the deck is ever run out and you need more cards, you just take that discard pile and shuffle it up and make a new deck. So I'm not going to go through all of the stuff about using the cards, but basically on each card, it tells you when to play it. And we try to be pretty darn specific about it. If you take a look at Uncanny here, it says after you roll for a challenge. And then it tells you what the effect of that card is. So after you roll for a challenge, if you really think you need to, you could use this card to add an extra success. How nice is that? Now, the bottom of the card is unrelated. The bottom of the card is used for other things, for challenges, perils, plot points, and things like that. After you play that card, it goes to the discard pile. It does not remain in your hand. Now, the next thing that it has here on page 36 is a really nice anatomy of a fortune card. So if you want to know what does this mean? What does this line mean? It tells you right here about what everything on the card is intended to represent. And then that turns us over here to page number 37. And on page 37, we're looking at who is the director and what happens when you are the director. So only one player can be the director at a time. But throughout the game, and even during multiple turns, even during a single turn, you could have multiple people become the director, just based on events that are occurring during the scenario. Pulp Alley is not one of those games where you just roll randomly to see who goes first, or that kind of silliness. Being the director is an important part of the game, and to change hands, once you become the director, you remain the director until another player takes it away from you. And there are 2 basic ways to become the director. One is to clearly win a fight, and we'll get into that a little bit more once we get into combat, but we say that very specifically, clearly wins a fight. We'll talk about that more later. And then another way to become the director is by drawing a reward card. So that would be completing a plot point. When you complete a plot point, you normally get to draw a reward card, and then that will also make you the director. So the big part of being the director is that you get to decide who's going to activate the next character. So as the director, I could look at the current situation and I could say, you know what? It looks like the robots are in a little bit of a tricky position here. I better go ahead and have my side activate first, or that sort of thing. And if there are multiple players, you could say maybe these two Raven Squadron are different sides. So you could decide: do I want to activate one of my characters? Do I want the robot player to activate, or do I want the Raven Squadron to activate? Now, once I pick the side that activates, they get to pick the character that they want to activate, as long as they pick a ready character. So a character is ready before and during their own activation. Once you activate a character and it has completed its activation, it is no longer ready. And it's worth noting that, once there are no ready characters in play, that's what ends a turn. And then the things that you could do during their activation, let me show you on this page, talks about activating. So you resolve some of the fortune effects. So whenever a character activates, you really want to give the other players an opportunity to play fortune cards out of their hand. A lot of fortune cards will say when an enemy activates, so you want to make sure they have a chance to play that. Next one is resolve automatic effects, for such as like being near something that causes horror or being in a perilous area. Now, if you activate and you're already engaged in a fight, well, guess what? You're going to be fighting. So let's say Phantom Ace activated and he's right here engaged with this robot. Well, he would have to immediately start and resolve that fight. He doesn't have a choice. Otherwise, you do get a chance to move. That's one of the first things that you do in an activation. If you're already engaged, you don't get to move. After you move, then you can make an attack, or you could perform an action normally. And then that ends your activation. So be very clear about that. Anytime after you fight an enemy, if you're the active character, after your fight is resolved or after your action is resolved, that ends your activation. And that was basically page 28. The next page that we're going to get into is getting into moving. We'll talk about rushing enemies and on and on. So that'll be in the next video. Let me know if you guys are getting anything out of this. Leave me a comment if you have any questions. Be sure and hit the like button and the bell. Get subscribed to our little channel. You don't want to miss this stuff. And we're going to see you very soon. Bye, everybody.